What's up, people? Welcome back. And today I want to talk about a topic that necessarily isn't talked about a lot and sort of in a more raw format. Um, I know that a lot of filmmaking talks right now are leaning more towards the negative side of things, that there's not enough work. People are unsure of what the future of the industry is going to look like. And I think all of these things are totally fair and valid. But today I want to talk a little bit about being busy in the film industry, being busy as a cinematographer. And I know that this is, a topic that might make some people feel uncomfortable or hopefully not make anyone feel bad about, the amount of work that they're doing or, the lack of work they're doing. The goal of this video is essentially to just explain that in this season of my life that I'm in, I am very busy with work. The last month and a half was probably the busiest that I've ever been in my career, which is amazing. But with that being said, the first month and a half of this year, January to February, I think I worked one day that entire month and a half. So it isn't me just kind of coming on here and, you know, gloating about how amazing I am or how busy I am. It's more about just the idea that there are different seasons in this industry, and whatever season you're in, there are lessons to learn, positive and negative, and hopefully I'm able to share some insights of what I learned sort of in this past month and a half of being very busy. And I have just some notes here that I'm probably going to look at some point just to make sure I'm talking about some things. But first thing I want to talk about is kind of just being prepared for busy season. Very often we're told to be prepared for a rainy day. So that means when there is no work, make sure you have money in the bank. Just making sure that you are prepared for that slow season. I feel like very rarely we actually talk about be prepared for that sunny day, be prepared for that time when it's going to pop. And to me, what that means is that when you are in a season of slowness, not working, and maybe you're feeling creatively in a drought, for example, that to me is the right time to be able to do things for yourself, whether that is go to the gym, practice, and try eating healthy, work on improving your skills not only as a filmmaker technically, but also how can you improve your communication skills, how can you improve your leadership skills. Are there things that you can learn about psychology, or things that you can learn about the human being in general? Could you just generally take a step back, hang out with friends, hang out with family? My consensus is that when you are in a season of being slow and not necessarily working a lot in the filmmaking space, you still want to be doing things in your spare time, in your free time, that allow you to feel a sense of growth, of feel a sense of, that you're moving forward. Because when that point comes where you do get hired, you're working, and the next job comes, the next job comes, you want to feel that you have this sort of momentum and that you are ready for those opportunities when they come to you. I think the worst thing is that when you get an opportunity and you're not prepared for it, that is when I feel that there is a potential problem that could happen. But if you were prepared for an opportunity to come your way, that's how success happens. I feel like that is truly what luck is, when success meets opportunity. Or is it when luck meets opportunity? I don't know. Either way, um, you just want to be prepared for when that opportunity comes. You want to be prepared for that busy season. Next thing I want to kind of go over is, again, it just being another season, and it sort of signifying growth to a certain degree. When you're busy, that means that people want to work with you. That means that you're doing something right, whether that's through social media, the previous work that you've shared, the way that you're working on set, the way that people want to share their experience working with you. You're doing something right. So don't take that for granted. Um, Acknowledge what you're doing, see the things that you're doing well, maybe double down on those things. Like, okay, maybe I'm posting more than I usually do, some of the good work that I've done. Okay, maybe that's helping. I started communicating differently on set, and it seems like I'm getting really good feedback from my crew and producers and director. Maybe I'll continue to work on my communication skills. And same thing with that is also look at the things that you aren't necessarily doing well. And I think this also comes back to that whole mindset of, the negativity towards filmmaking. And again, I'm not saying it's not warranted, but I think that sometimes there's a world where we don't necessarily look at the things that we're not doing that could help us improve our situation rather than putting the blame on something external. Again, not putting the blame on anyone or anything, but sometimes it's important to look at ourselves in the mirror and ask ourselves, what are we doing to help us put ourselves in a better position and set us up for success? What are we not doing to also do that? So, looking at these things and seeing how you can improve will only better you in the off season when you're slow, but also really prepare you for when you're on the go in the busyness of the busy season. Uh, Huge topic, actually, I think is really important, is being good with money when you're busy. I think this is a trap that a lot of filmmakers fall in, myself included, is that when you are busy, 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 you're making good money, you feel like this month, wow, I made, you know, great money. I'm going to go buy a new lens. I'm going to buy a new camera. I'm going to go buy whatever because I just made an absorbent amount of money. That's that's fair. I've been there for sure, and sometimes I still am to a degree. But I think the proper mentality is to not look at the money that you make in that small window of time as a huge amount of money that you're able to just spend. I think it's good to invest. Don't get me wrong between the difference of investing and spending. But you also need to make sure that you are preparing yourself for when that busyness season comes to an end. Because it inevitably will come to an end, not forever, but there will be a pause in that busy season where you are then searching for work again. Money isn't coming in as quickly, it's not coming in the same amount of quantity. So, looking at the money that you're making, how can you disperse it the best way possible? Are you setting yourself up for that proper rainy day fund to set your to keep a secure amount of money for that rainy day? Are you investing in the right equipment? Are you investing in maybe a different avenue like the stock market or your retirement account? Are you just saving money in general? I think these are all topics to kind of discuss. Are you putting money into your tax account as well? So thinking about money and thinking about your finances when you're busy, I think is really important because a lot of us just often result to just spending money on things because we have it and it's coming in at that moment. So we think, oh, this is an opportunity to go spend. Yes, but also it could be an opportunity for you to save and build up your sort of piggy bank and make sure that you are feeling secure in a career path that is very unstable. So make sure you think about that when you're kind of working, you're feeling good about finances. Make sure you have a bit of a safety net and you're thinking about your finances more than just spending. All right, next thing I want to talk about is being grateful for every opportunity you get. I think that this is really interesting because sometimes I find often that when I'm in a busy season and work is flowing, you can kind of get a sort of like, I don't want to say cocky mentality, but you could think that like, oh, I'm the shit type of thing. And in reality, that's a horrible mentality to have. So I encourage everyone that when you're feeling busy, you're getting hired, people want to work with you, refrain from that sort of egotistical mindset and just be grateful that people see what you believe in yourself to be true. You believe that you are capable of doing these jobs well. You believe that you're able to deliver this product. You're able to deliver the leadership and communication that people expect you to. Be humble in the opportunities that you get. Be grateful for all the opportunities you get. No matter how small the project is, be grateful and think of that as your last job. The same way you think of this job over here that is triple the budget. Treat every job the same. Of course, each job is going to require its own different mental stress and capacity, but just treat each job as it's your last and be grateful that you got this small job and be grateful that you got this big job and all in between. All right, what else? Focus. Yeah, focus is important because this could be difficult sometimes. When you have a job on a Monday, you have a scout on a Tuesday, job on a Wednesday, scout, job, scout, prep, this, that. It can get overwhelming sometimes of where your head is even at. And I think this is just a general advice when it comes to organization and creating systems. I think very often as freelance filmmakers, we tend to not look at ourselves as businesses or look at our schedules as an opportunity to create a system that better help us prepare ourselves for various projects. You know, when there's just one project in the pipeline, it's easy to kind of organize the emails, organize what we have to do. But when there's five, six, seven different projects going on, you know, all around the state, all around the country, different producers, different director, different crew, different equipment, it could become chaotic very quickly. So I highly recommend finding and building a system out that fits you. And when I first started, the best system that I could come up with is similar to like a whiteboard. You write the project down and list the things that need to get done. So there could be 2 or 3 projects on the whiteboard. Be like, okay, one, talk to the director about creative. 2, talk to the producer about equipment. 3, make sure we hire key grip, gaffer, whatever. Fill in the blank of all the things that need to be done, and then check it off once it gets done. This will help you stay organized, and that's just one example of a system that you can create to stay organized. I have different systems now that involve my computer, so it's a little bit more structured. But it takes a little bit of trial and error for you to find those systems. And maybe I'll do a video in the future of what those exact systems are. But find it for you. You could also do sticky notes. You could do stickies on your laptop on the different projects. But make sure that you are organizing your email as well, because I know that could be very hectic. So each email, each production company essentially gets its own folder in my Gmail, and every project goes right into that folder. So anytime that I'm working on a project with the production company, it's all organized in one specific place. So I think that's really important. And the other thing with focus too, a little bit more of like a practical thing, is when you're on set, stay on set. Stay focused on the project that you're shooting. You don't want to be the person that is on set shooting, thinking and talking about another project while you're in the middle of a scene doing, a shoot. I think it's really important to understand that you are currently working for a production company or working for a director or producer, that this is their project that they're focusing on in this moment. You know, just because you have 5 others doesn't mean that it deserves any less of your attention and time. So make sure that you are just staying locked in and focused on that project. And when it's over, move on to the next one. But don't necessarily spread yourself too thin, and make sure that you're still delivering the best possible product and best version of yourself to this production every time you can. All right, kind of talked about staying organized. I think the other, if I could add something to staying organized, it's kind of just building trust with your crew. And this is maybe specifically to like DPs and stuff. Build a good relationship with your crew. I think that over the years, I've started to build really great relationships with certain people, G&E side, camera side, that I don't even necessarily need to talk about specific things anymore, because we've worked together so much and we built such a good foundation, a core trust within one another, that we kind of understand what needs to be done regardless of the project. There are certain basic things that always will get done that I don't even need to really stress about anymore. And having a good communication with them, and kind of understanding what they like in terms of having a relationship with the DP, and how you like to work with them, is also really important in building that. So as you start to build up your crew list, and you start working with some of the people's, some of the same time, you start working with some of the crews, more consistently, you start to build that trust out. You start to feel a little bit more confident in your communication and ability to trust the people that are able to get that job done for you. This one may be a hit or miss, to be honest. I don't really know, but thinking about the projects, maybe it's just my personality, but I have to become obsessed with what I'm doing, and for me to be able to deliver the best visual product that I can, and I say product because I'm talking about commercials, I have to visualize it in my head so much. I have to like literally see the commercial in my head, and that requires me to be very obsessive. It requires me to think about the project over and over and over again. Think about what the lighting is going to look like. Think about the camera movement. Think about what the setup looks like. I think that's also really important too. Is like I often just like obviously look at the shot in my head and think about the lighting, think about the move, but I also take a step back and like, what does this set look like to me? And that also helps me reframe and kind of just be able to talk with my crew a little bit more, talk about the producers of how I visualize it happening. And even though it might not happen exactly like that, just based on my past experience, this is how I see it happening. How does this relate to how you are seeing it? How does this relate to how you're thinking about equipment? And then we could, that goes into the whole conversation with producers and equipment and finances and budget and stuff like that. But you do have to kind of be obsessed to be able to do this job and do it well. But by that same token, when you are super busy, it is important to find moments where you can shut off and turn off. When you're home from work and you you're with your partner, you're with your friends, your parents. Take some time to just be with them, eat dinner, watch a show, watch a movie, kind of just completely not think sometimes is actually more beneficial than thinking. So I think it's finding a healthy balance between obsessing over your projects and thinking about what needs to get done, how you're visualizing them, what's going to happen, versus not thinking at all and just keeping your mind clear of things and allowing yourself to kind of recharge. So I think there's a healthy mind. I think there's a healthy balance there. That is tricky, but it helps me. It just helps me wrap my head around the projects when I am in that sort of obsessive mindset. Again, not sure if it's super healthy, but it's how I work. Um, Last thing I think is really interesting to me is the priority structure of my life at given seasons. So this season, where I'm super busy with DP work, this took priority over everything. I had to stop making YouTube videos. I had to stop making podcasts. I had to cut down on my fitness and workouts to, even though some of you might think this is still a lot, I pretty much consistently worked out 3 times a week when it was normally 5 or 6. Um, and I'd be shooting prep scouts probably 4 to 5 times a week for the last like month and a half. So I was like nonstop. And I always tried to make time for the gym, partially because that's just like who I am in nature, but also because I'm training for a race and I had to make sure that I was at least holding up to a certain standard. But the priority necessarily wasn't the gym. When I'm slow, the priority is definitely fitness for me. I prioritize it a lot. I'll sometimes go to the gym twice a day. But even in that busy season, I still made sure to prioritize my health and my nutrition. I think that's really important for me because of how much I work, uh, you know, as a DP, but also fitness. I need to make sure that I'm staying hydrated. I need to make sure that I'm eating the proper foods. And sometimes on set, you are given food that isn't necessarily the best. I totally understand that crafty is, your hour 10, that little bites chocolate chip muffin is looking real good, but I always do my best to try to refrain from eating things that aren't going to benefit me, partially because of my training regimen and the things that I'm trying to accomplish outside of filmmaking. But again, the priority was DP. So when you take a look at the season that you're in and understand what takes priority, that also means that things have to get pushed to the wayside, which is totally okay. And I think that's the whole point, is just understanding that things will flow. This one takes priority now, these get pushed. But maybe next season, this one comes up, this goes down. And of course, it's this sort of flow where you kind of have to find the happy medium somewhere. But there is always going to be a time where one takes precedent over the other. But as long as you're finding balance in other aspects and rebalancing in certain points, I think that is also a really important thing to consider as well. So when you're slow, don't sulk in the fact that this priority that was really hot before isn't working anymore. So don't sulk in that. Just rebalance and find something else to take priority. And I think that is pretty much what I want to talk about. Um, I don't know. I think just like as I can recap this past month and a half, I feel like I'm doing the best work that I've ever done. I feel like I'm really pushing myself to the limits. I'm pushing myself creatively. I'm challenging myself on every project. I'm doing things that are scaring me a little bit, things that I feel uncomfortable about, because I don't want to be in a place anymore where I'm just comfortable on every shoot and doing the same thing. I want to push myself. I want to push the director, the producers, the crew, and I think I'm getting to the point, especially this past season, where I really felt that I achieved a new level of growth and visually, I think I'm doing the best work that I've ever done, and a lot of that is just by choice, by me looking at projects and asking myself, how can I make this 10% better? What can I do to make this visually amazing? What can I do to offer something unique? Why would someone want to hire Carlo opposed to John over here? And when I sort of reframe it like that, I can't help but think that I need to step up and try new things and experiment and push. And even if I get pushback or even if it's just not the right thing, it helps me knowing that I'm trying and then I'm looking for a new opportunity. I'm searching for something unique and different, and I'm staying curious. So I don't know if there's anything in there for anyone today, but hopefully you found something for you to take away. Um, Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.